So here is my project for today. This is a vintage mirror that would have definitely come off a dresser at some point. I think what's really held me back from doing this project sooner is that the frame's not actual wood, and I don't really love how brown it is. So I wiped it off a lot. It was super dusty from being in my garage for so long. So it's looking a lot better, and I'm actually liking the frame color more than I thought. But if it had been real wood, I would have sanded it and maybe stained it a little bit lighter. So I'm kind of tossing around the idea of trying some kind of paint to lighten it up, make it still look like wood. That can be pretty difficult to achieve though, and I'm not sure I want to do that considering the color is really not that bad. But what I am going to do first, now that it's all nice and clean, is prime the glass with just some Kills primer. If I would have had Slick Stick from Dixie Belle, that would have been my preference because glass can be pretty finicky to paint. But I'm going to go ahead with that Kills and just do a super light coat of that. And then really make sure it has plenty of time to get fully dry before I cover that up with at least 2 coats of my chalkboard paint. I ended up running to Lowe's and going with this tintable chalkboard paint. The brand is Krylon, and it was about $16 for this quart. So not the cheapest by any means, but not a horrible price either. You're able to tint it to any color that you want. So I went with this color called Blush Sage. It was in their little booklet there. I was hoping to match the color from Magnolia Home, but this was the closest thing I could do. And I'm just a little worried it's gonna be too gray, but I think it'll be okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and just paint this right onto the glass because it does say glass on here instead of trying to prime it. I was worried that the primer that I have is a little old, so it might just go on a little too thick anyway. So I'm just gonna try to do at least 2 coats of this, probably even a third just to be safe because I want it to be extra durable because I want someone to be able to actually write on it and use chalk on it. So this is what I'm gonna go with. I'm thinking this will be plenty for this project and possibly enough for another mirror that I'll do another day. Okay, like always, now that I have one project going, I'm decided to just keep going with this old window that I have out in the garage. I've had this again for ages, and it's just about time that I do something with it. So since I already have this chalkboard paint out, I'm gonna go ahead. I have this all like wiped down and cleaned off. I'm gonna go ahead and make this one a chalkboard too. I think for fall, especially with the green background, it's gonna be really nice. It's a very sagey background though. I kind of wish it was more green like my hutch. Here's how that first coat is drying though, and I think it's really pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and first coat this window, and then I'm gonna make the frame a little bit more of an off-white, so it's gonna be a little bit more French country, hopefully, in the end. And I can't wait to put them in the booth together. I think they'll be really, really pretty, but they're also really large, so I might not be able to fit them at the same time, but it's always good to have a backup piece ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on this one too and see if I can knock both of these out today. Here's how we're looking after that first coat of that nice creamy color and then the first coat of the chalkboard paint. Oh, sorry, I just turned my dishwasher on, didn't think about that. And then this one's still drying, so I'm gonna give it that full 2 hours that it recommends on the can to make that second coat. And then while those are drying, I just pulled this blueberry loaf out of the oven a few minutes ago. It's cooled quite a bit. So that is all prepped for breakfast tomorrow. Even though I know when my kids get home this evening, they're probably gonna eat half of it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and throw in some flour and all the other things into my bread maker so that we have a loaf of sandwich bread for the week. This week I'm gonna go with the crusty French bread. I like to have French bread on hand because it makes really good sandwiches, but also once it gets a little hard at like day 3 or 4, I like to chop it into big cubes and then turn it into like a breakfast casserole for breakfast for the rest of the week. I got my bread machine last year at Sam's on a really good sale. I think it was about $80. It's KitchenAid brand. And let this be your reminder, if you have a bread machine that you haven't pulled out in ages, go pull it out because it's amazing. You just layer everything in there, and in about 3 hours you have a perfect loaf of bread. Even the times that we've kind of like messed up the ingredients, it still comes out edible enough no matter what. So highly recommend this. It's such an easy way to get fresh bread in your home. And after having so many failed attempts at making bread in my regular oven, this has been a breath of fresh air. Okay, so while I have you here, I decided I'm gonna actually finish up a couple other things because it's a couple days later now and I want to take up a load of things to my booth. And just in that process, I saw a couple little things I could get done and take up there while I am going. So I started with this little pot of lavender from Target. These are only $5. I've used them before in my videos. And then I had this little white pitcher that I thrifted, but the flowers didn't quite fit in there with the vase, so I couldn't pull it out of the vase. I just took it outside and broke the vase off with a hammer, and this is what it looks like inside. And now it just fits so perfectly in this little pitcher here. And so I have this, and then these two white canisters. They are enamel, so they're these just enamel canisters, nothing really special about them. And I have these transfers left from IOD. I've used several of these in the past. This packet is called Traditional Pots. This is probably the one that I've used most often on my channel because there are so many little appliques in this set that it just keeps going and going. So I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of this set because I've used it so many times. So all I'm going to do is just cut out 3 different black and white appliques. I have a few left here, and just rub them right onto the front of these 3 pieces. That'll give them a little bit more character, a little bit more of a vintage feel, and then I feel like they're gonna fit in my booth perfectly fine, and I will just take those right up there once I have everything priced. Well, there you go. I've had these transfers and these canisters and that pitcher and those florals hanging around my house for literal months, and it only took me about 20 minutes to probably knock out all 3 pieces. So I don't know why I do that. I just it takes me a long time to come up with my ideas, I guess, or just get the inspiration to do something with the things I have sitting around my house already. But I love how they turned out. I think this one especially is really cute. Now they are ready to go and ready to be placed on someone's shelf as a piece of decor. So I'm hoping I'll be able to make a pretty good profit, and hoping that these will be a pretty quick sale. So some mistakes were made, and if you recall, I was so confident that I wouldn't need to prime this mirror in order for that chalkboard paint to stick well, but that was not true, and I should have just gone with my gut and all of my prior experience and gone ahead and primed this. Even though the paint can did say this could go right onto glass, I should have just known better. So now I'm not going to be able to make this a writable chalkboard because, as you can see, there's just like a ton of little cracks in the paint where it was just not sticking to the glass. And this is after 4 or 5 coats of paint, so it just was not working out. So instead of making a writable chalkboard, I'm making more of a faux finish chalkboard using the clear wax first and then going over it with the white wax, which gives it a nice chalky finish. I've done this many times in the past, so I'm not super disappointed that this is how I had to go. But I was a little bummed that I had gone out and bought chalkboard paint, and it's actually not going to work out for this project. But that's okay. I will definitely use it again in the future on something. I'm not sure what yet, but I'm sure it'll come to me. So all I'm doing right now is just waxing this piece and giving it that faux chalkboard look. And so now I just need to pick out a wreath that I want to attach to this to make it more of a wall art feature piece. Okay, so I've let the wax set for a whole night now. It's almost been 24 hours, and I love how it looks. It truly does look like an old chalkboard that's just been used a lot and erased. So I'm really happy with this pivot of plans that I've had to make here. Now I just have to figure out how I'm going to attach the wreath. And once I have that kind of figured out, then this piece is going to be all done. I'm just going to leave the frame as is. I think it's all looking really nice together. Okay, so remember when I said I didn't need to prime because it said I could use it on glass? Look at this. I noticed it was bubbling, so I went ahead and just like pulled it up to see how much was bubbling, and it's literally just a sheet of paint that's not attached to anything. So I would definitely recommend priming first, and I knew better when I was working on this, but I just didn't. I didn't take the time to do the extra step. So here we are, paying the price for not doing proper preparation. But what I'm actually going to do, obviously, some sort of change of plans. Since I want to attach that word to this, I am thinking about doing this in a different color anyway. Just a shame that I wasted this much paint. I think I'm going to end up using this paint on the wall instead. I just feel like it's really, really fragile for these kinds of projects where they're going to get written on. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I have to maybe read some reviews on the product itself and see if I can find out any tips or tricks on other people who have maybe had the same experience or what has worked best for them. My guess is it's just an issue of needing to prime it first. So it's just a really good like primer that is a bonding primer, something that's going to give this something to stick to. But yeah, hopefully I'll have some time this evening to maybe get online and see what other people have done to make this work. And I'm just going to get that little section off. And then try something else for this window. Luckily, it's not very difficult to paint something this size relatively quickly. But this is actually super satisfying to pull off, so not all was lost here. It's quite enjoyable. But let's see what else we can do with this window. So this has, of course, become the project that never ends, but that's okay. I've changed my mind one more time, and I'm not actually going to stick with this plan. So for this frame here, it's all white waxed, and it's mostly cured. I'm going to attach the Gather Together sign to that one and then add that eucalyptus wreath because I think the eucalyptus matches this kind of cool green a little bit more. And then I painted my other one a little bit of a darker green. It's very similar on camera though. And it's a little bit more of a warm green, so I feel like it complements this wreath a little bit better. And then I'm going to use this Home Sweet Home on the bottom of this one because I feel like the wood of the letters and then like the brown of the pine cones, I feel like that's all very complementary. So I think in the end I'm going to have two really cute signs. I know I've gone back and forth about them, but I'm excited for them to turn out. So all I have to do now is actually assemble everything, and then I'm going to get these up into the shop. I was really nervous how that Gorilla Glue was going to hold up on a waxed surface, but it actually adhered really well, and I don't have any concerns about it falling off. So if you had any questions about that, the Gorilla Glue did actually do really well on something that was already waxed. And now I'm just attaching the wreath. So for this big frame, I ended up using the really big Folly wreath, which is my favorite from Hobby Lobby. The little word cutouts are also from Hobby Lobby, but I've got those a couple of years ago, honestly. They've just been hanging out in my garage, so I can't guarantee they have the same exact one, but I'm sure they have something similar there. And then I'm just using this gingham ribbon. That's either from Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I'm almost certain it was Hobby Lobby, but also not from this year. So can't guarantee anything that I'm using today is still there, but I do think they sell that wreath almost every year, so I'm assuming it's probably there again. I haven't been there in so long that it's hard for me to say. So I just staple the wreath on. I just use staples in the back going through that ribbon. And then I use hooks that look like this. You can get them at any hardware store. And that is what I use to attach to the back of something this heavy so that my buyer can hang it onto their wall.
I find that these feel the most secure because they have 2 screw holes and they have a 75-pound weight limit. So using 2 of them is 150 pounds, which is much more than this window weighs, even though this is a really heavy piece. But I feel really secure in being able to sell something that has these types of hooks, because I do get kind of nervous about selling something so heavy that someone's going to put on their wall and it potentially like falling down or breaking. But pretty simple process here of just measuring and making sure everything's even, and then attaching the hooks on the back, and then they're ready to go.
All right, and here are the finished products. I absolutely love how these came out. I don't know if you guys remember, but I used to do projects like these quite often. I haven't done any windows or mirrors in a long time, and I always love how they turn out, especially with just a few little added details. I mean, you're talking paint, wax, a little word attached, and a wreath. So really 4 rather simple elements that kind of transform these entirely. I do think this one's my preference. It's big though, so someone would really have to have a nice big space for this. But I just love how like the wood words really play off the pine cones in the wreath, and just all of the greens and neutral tones together. I love it. I love it so much. I'm normally able to sell these for a pretty high price. So with the store opening, the new store location of my treasure house, I do think we'll have a ton of new shoppers. And so because of that, I think I'll be able to charge a little bit more than I typically would. I think we're going to have just a really big turnout for opening day. I'm filming this last little tidbit on Monday, September 25th, and we open up at the new shop this Friday. So I think that's the 29th. And we're kind of expecting a pretty big opening that day, but we're setting up our booth this week in that new location. So I'm really excited to have these ready to go, and I have a bunch of other things to price and get up to the shop, but I think our new display is going to be beautiful. We're bringing in all new furniture for the new booth location. So I will maybe try to film the building of our new booth, because right now it's just a very empty slate, which is exciting. We don't get that very often, but it's always nice to have kind of a fresh start. It just makes it very easy to see like a new vision for things when there's nothing there already. So looking forward to this week. So that video will be coming up soon of us setting up our new antique booth, and then I'll probably do a new store tour really soon too, just to kind of kick off that new store location and let you guys see the new layout and everything that we're offering. So exciting week for us. I hope that you guys have subscribed so you can see that video, and I really appreciate you watching today. I will see you in the next one. Bye.